will now call to order the regular meeting of the Lompoc City Council for Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Vega.
Here.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Present.
Councilmember Ball.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Gilda Cordova.
Here.
Mayor Janelle Osborne.
Here. We will now open the floor for oral communications on closed session. If you would like to speak to any of the items, you are welcome to come forward and have 3 minutes. While we wait to see if anyone comes to the podium, I will state what closed session items we are going to deal with. The first item, conference with labor negotiators, has been continued and will be pulled from this agenda. Item number 2, liability claims, has been pulled. So the only item that we will be dealing with in closed session is item number 3, conference with real property negotiators, approximately 82 acres, including and adjacent to the Cannon Park, APN 095070008. City negotiators, City Manager Dean Albro, City Attorney Jeff Malave, negotiating parties Pale Blue Dot Ventures, and City of Lompoc. Under negotiation is priced in terms of payment. Seeing no one rise for oral communications on closed session, we will close that and we will reconvene to open session at 6:30 p.m. Good evening. We will now reconvene the Lompoc City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Starbuck.
Present.
Councilmember Ball.
Present.
Councilmember Vega.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gilda Cordova.
Here.
Mayor Janelle Osborne.
Here. Mr. Malave, do we have any reportable action from closed session?
Mayor, there were 3 items on the closed session agenda. The council did not discuss items 1 or item 2. Council did discuss item 3, a real property negotiations item, and gave direction to staff, but there was no reportable action.
Thank you. Please rise and join me for the invocation with Chaplain Keith McClellan, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Loving, just, and faithful eternal God, our source of hope, comfort, and joy, I invite your divine presence and guidance into tonight's deliberations and decision-making. Grant our City Council representatives the will and the skill to prioritize actions that add to the well-being of all those they stand for and serve. Grant them the ability to make decisions that are wise, just, and fair. Grant them your wisdom and discernment. When faced with complex matters, empower our City Council and City Management team to boldly and forthrightly seek opportunities to overcome barriers and find solutions that give priority to the interests and needs of the community they serve, while ensuring sound stewardship of the city's fiscal and personnel resources. Grant each member of our community who comes before this council with a voice where not only are their words are heard, but that the heart behind the word is heard and appreciated. Help all those who live in and benefit from living in Lompoc recognize their role in contributing to the quality of life they enjoy. Protect us all from those who would do harm, and bless our police and fire personnel who put themselves in harm's way to keep us safe. Help us as a community and as individuals to pause and remember law enforcement officers who made and are prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice in public service to our communities. Remind us to take time especially honor our active service police officers and command staff whenever opportunity presents itself, but specifically during the upcoming Police Officers Week. Grant those on patrol and those in direct contact with members of our community with courage and compassion, strength of body, mind and spirit, dedication and concern for those who need them in moments of vulnerability. Above all, help the men and women of our police department to help themselves and to help each other to guard their hearts, minds, and souls as they stare evil in the face on a daily basis to hold accountable those who would do harm to others and our city. May we all, by example, be instruments of your peace, and may we all find our place of contribution to growing a community consistent with your purposes and worthy of your approval. We ask this as your children, confident in your goodness and love. And the people said, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So our first proclamation tonight, I'm not going to make her come down since she is sitting right here. But it is the 55th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week for 2024. Whereas the Office of Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world and is the oldest among public servants. And whereas the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. And whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk through the participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk. Now, therefore, I, Janelle Osborne, Mayor of the City of Lompoc, do recognize the week of May 5th through May 11th, 2024, as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our professional municipal clerk, Stacy Haddon, and to all the professional municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. And I have to say, the municipal clerk is who monitors and controls the proclamation, so getting this past her and on the agenda took a bit of effort, but we managed to do it to the point that she just had to list it because it had already been decided. But I want to say that our city clerk, in particular, Stacy, is truly a guide to us. She keeps us on task. She keeps us aligned with what we're supposed to be doing. She helps make sure that we follow the rules and helps guide us. And it is a very important role, and there's so much more you do on the daily level within the city that many people don't realize. And I just want to say thank you for the hard work and your dedication and your commitment, and we really appreciate it. And I won't make you take the microphone. You're welcome. I would like to welcome our police chief to come to the podium. And we will have a proclamation recognizing May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and May 12th through May 18th as Police Week. Whereas National Police Week was created in 1962 after then President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, signed the Public Law 87726. The law designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and stated that the week in which the day falls should be National Police Week. Every year, the National Law Enforcement Officers organize a memorial service to honor police officers who've lost their lives in the line of duty. And whereas law enforcement has existed for centuries, although its officers haven't always been known as police. In ancient China, they were called prefects. In Old Babylonians, called them pakudu. In the Inca Empire, they called officials who held the roles of magistrate kuraka. Inspectors on lower-level governors were called tokrikok. And I think they did that just to make me attempt to pronounce these things. Thank you. I Googled them and made them pronounce them for me. Whereas the United States police force has developed since then to become a powerful one with dedicated officers. The goal of the National Police Week is to honor and celebrate these officers. Individuals and governments have a responsibility to honor their brave and hardworking law enforcement on this day. In October 2020, the United States approved legislation authorizing the construction of a National Law Enforcement Museum on federal property directly across the street from the Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. And whereas the work of law enforcement officers is essential to preserving peace in our communities and ensuring the safety of precious lives and personal property. Now therefore, I, Janelle Osborne, Mayor of the City of Lompoc, California, do hereby call upon the citizens of Lompoc to observe Peace Officers Memorial Day on May 15th, 2024, and the week in which it falls as Police Week, May 12th through May 18th, 2024, and recognize and appreciate the vital role that City of Lompoc's hardworking law enforcement officers play in keeping our city safe. This is for you, and I know that you have some announcements to make along with it, but thank you to all our officers. We really appreciate the dedication you give to our community. All right.
Thank you very much. Just a few words. Mayor, members of the City Council, and the residents of Lompoc. Next week, we observe National Police Week. I sincerely thank each of you on the dais and in the community for your continued support and engagement with our department and its initiatives. We will honor next week the brave men and women in law enforcement who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. This year alone, the United States has tragically lost 47 law enforcement officers. Each name reminds us of the courage and the commitment that characterizes our profession. It is our solemn duty and privilege to remember these names, these heroes. Our annual Police Week food truck event taking place next Wednesday is not just a community gathering, but a poignant tribute to these fallen officers. It offers us a moment to reflect on their sacrifices and to strengthen our bonds with you, the community we serve. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. And if you have an opportunity to join us next week, we would love to see you. And just remember, this is a pretty special week for us in law enforcement. So thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll have a report provided by the Utilities Department regarding water reservoir management and maintenance services.
Thank you. In fiscal 22-23, the Water Department put out an RFP for reservoir maintenance, and the solicitation resulted in the Utility Services Company responding to the RFP. Keith Jones and Brian Woodring are here to give you a brief presentation on what the services are that are entailed in that RFP, and I'll turn it over to them.
Good evening. My name's Keith Jones, and first of all, I'd like to thank the council members, Madam Mayor, for allowing us to be here and present on our company. We did a lot of work leading up to this with the utility staff, and so what I want to do is we responded to the RFP that was put out and tell you a little bit about our company, and then Brian Woodring, our director, is going to come up and tell you more about the services that we'll provide under that RFP. And I'm Keith Jones, the first one on the list up there. So what we're going to talk about is the company background, initially, the experience and qualifications of the company. What is asset management, which is what we offer, not just a tank rehabilitation, but a full management program around the rehabilitation and the long-term maintenance. And then the assessments and the scopes of work that will take place. So first of all, we have 11 service centers all over the country. We're a nationwide company that does tank maintenance and asset management. We have about 4,000 municipal and industrial customers, 8,000 water assets under our management program. The service center that would serve Lompoc is 3 hours away. It's in Ontario, California. So under some of the things Brian will talk about as far as emergency services and that, we've got people on the road all the time. In worst case scenario, they're driving 3 hours from Ontario. Excuse me. So a little history on the company. We started in 1963 operating as Utility Service Company, Co. Inc. in 1963. And we were founded in Madison, North Carolina. Then sometime soon after that, moved to Perry, Georgia, just south of Atlanta. And we did business in 1985. We started the tank management Asset Management Program, 1985. And then from there, we went up to 2008. We were purchased by the French company Suez, who was originally the Maritime Suez Canal Company. They had a long, rich history in utility work. They wanted to take our asset management program, expand it into other assets and utilities. We rebranded under their name as a DBA in 2015, and then the much larger company, Veolia, bought Suez after that, rebranded to their name, and they don't do asset management. They don't do tank maintenance. So they said, you know what, we're gonna let you guys go. And we became American-owned and operated once again 2 years ago, I'm sorry, and we're back doing business as utility service company. We always have. That's always been the name on every contract since 1963. We just had a couple of umbrella companies over us from time to time. We're glad to be back. So one of the things that was in the RFP is that the company that is selected should be able to provide other services. So I just wanted to point out real quick, the first thing we started as a company was tank services. We also now do treatment plant maintenance and rehabilitation, concrete maintenance and rehabilitation, distribution line rehabilitation in situ, meaning while it's still in the ground, we can rehabilitate distribution lines, water quality services, and then also advanced metering infrastructure. But our primary focus here in Lompoc, for now, is the tank maintenance program. So our Advanced Solutions Asset Management Program it starts with a condition assessment. With the condition assessment, we went out and assessed every single tank, every single reservoir in the city of Lompoc, and did a very comprehensive assessment of the assets. Are they in code with American Water Works Association standards? Are they in code with OSHA safety standards? So we do all of those things. This started in November of 22. So it's been a long road. We do a very, very deep dive into the assets when we do these programs. So from there, if you look at kind of the flow, we go from the condition assessment of the asset to what we call the upfront renovation. We bring that asset back to like new condition. And then over time, we provide preventative maintenance. We provide emergency services. We come out every year and lay hands on the tank, interior and exterior, do touch-ups, anything that needs to be done to extend the life of that tank indefinitely. And then the other thing as part of the program is all your future renovations are included in the program. So you never have that big spike again in the budget. It stays pretty flat over time. After we finish the upfront renovation, then we go into the maintenance component, and we maintain it for a lifetime. Okay, so most of the companies that would typically have responded to this, they do a 1-year warranty, and in 366 days, it's your tank. In our case, it's still your tank, but we take on all full risk and responsibility for the asset in perpetuity. And Brian will talk a little bit about the type of agreement it is. It's an evergreen agreement that renews every year. It's not a long-term life agreement. So that's kind of the things that are included in the program. And then qualifications, from a qualification standpoint, we are the only company in the country that has the ISO 9001:2015 for tank maintenance. There's tank constructing companies that have the ISO rating or certification for new construction, but we're the only ones that has the certification for maintenance. And the certification is basically to say that we do what we say we're going to do, and then we're audited on an annual basis to make sure that we actually did what we said we were going to do. So that's a safeguard for the utility. We follow all the OSHA regulations, SSPC standards, AWWA, ANSI, NSF, EPA. We're aligned with all of those organizations to provide the best possible solution to tank asset management. Our inspectors are all NACE certified. Excuse me. All the folks like myself are NACE certified. We're just water system consultants, but the company is committed to the National Association of Coating Engineers to the level where they want all of their employees to have that certification. So if I'm out looking at a tank, I have the certification to know what I'm looking at, what I'm looking for. Another certification that we have that's kind of near and dear to my heart, because I'm an operator at heart. I ran a water treatment plant. I ran a water system. So I'm a T3, D3 operator in the state of California, certified utility manager. And we have, Brian will talk about some of the services that come on the maintenance side. And one of those things is we have certified operators on staff. So whenever we're doing disinfection, we're pulling bacteriologicals and all that stuff, we have operators on staff to make sure that that's done properly according to the state water treatment and distribution regulations. To say we know a little bit about tank maintenance, we have, in 2023, we did 1,800 tank renovations, interior and exterior, back to like new condition. We do about 8,000 inspections and washouts a year. We have people on the road almost 7 days a week all over the country going out and taking care of tanks. The oldest tank we have on our program is over 100 years old. 20 years ago, it was 100 years old, and we took over it, brought it back to like new condition, and it's still on the program in Georgia. And then 50 years of asset management experience. We actually just turned 60 years old as a company, but 10 years into it is when we started the asset management program. So, Brian, you want to talk about what an asset management program consists of? Well, so what you have to do is you have to push that, and that goes to the next.
Excellent.
Got it?
Thank you. Thank y'all again for having me tonight, Keith and myself, to talk about this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the specifics of asset management and what our program is. Please, I would consider this more conversational. If you have a question, please stop me and ask. I'll go through a lot of kind of dry information, but we'll try to get through it and make it beneficial. So Tank Asset Management Program, as Keith said, we started it in 1985. That's when we introduced it to the market. The concept of the program is a partnership between us and the utility, the city of Lompoc. The benefit is one point of contact. That point of contact would be Keith Jones. So I'll leave his phone number when we leave here. And the value is we can extend the life of the tank potentially indefinitely, all under an evergreen agreement. So what is an evergreen agreement? We'll talk about that a little bit more in detail later, but that is a one-year term. It renews automatically on its anniversary date, but it allows flexibility for the utility in cases of financial downturns, things of that nature, in case we need to cancel the agreement and move forward. So what's included in the asset management program? Number one would be visuals and washout assessments. As Keith said, we want to put our hands on that tank on an annual basis. We want to come out in a visual case. We're mostly inspecting the exterior of the tank. When we do washouts, we're going to ask Sean and his people to drain the tank so that we can get in it, clean it out, disinfect it, etc., and then make it ready back for service. All the while, we want to inspect 100% of the surfaces. This allows us to find the small problems and correct them then so that they don't turn into large problems in the future. Second, listed number 3 here, but second would be emergency repairs. What defines an emergency repair? As Keith said, we are only about 3 hours away. An emergency repair can be anything from lewd graffiti to rock strikes that cause leaks to any basic leak in the steel structure itself, things like that. I know I live in the state of Arkansas. What is a common emergency repair there is during hunting season. People like to shoot the tank. And so, we have to respond within a day to fix that and take care of it. Additionally, as Keith alluded to, things also covered is going to be the interior and exterior renovation that brings it back to like new condition, but also all future renovations. So the renovations are time and condition based. I can give you some basic averages on when we typically expect to do renovations, but it's going to mostly be condition based off of our NACE certified inspectors determining if coating retention, protection of the steel substrate, adhesion, things of that nature are taken care of. And once they start to get to kind of that less than 50-50 point, we want to come out and do another renovation, bring it back up to like new condition. Any questions so far? All right, so how have we typically done this in the past? The tank owner, the utility, will have an inspection completed. They'll have a list of situations that have occurred, things that need to be fixed. If it is severe enough, they'll contact an engineer to put specifications together. The engineer will work with a coatings manufacturer who works with a contractor, selects it typically at the lowest bid. They'll hire an inspection firm to try to keep the contractor honest. At the end of the day, that situation, what it involves is if there is a problem at 366 days, then it is still the utility's responsibility to take care of it. Our model is a little bit different. Keith alluded to this earlier. So our model is proactive, a little bit more sustainable. Again, we want to be on that tank on an annual basis with annual inspections. We want to make sure that any minor repairs are taken care of before they become major repairs. We basically want to shift the risk away from the utility itself or the city of Lompoc to utility service. So we're assuming the risk and responsibility while the city retains ownership. So the asset management model, the 5 things that we typically focus on: sanitary, safety, structural, and coatings conditions of a tank. These are the things that we look for in every assessment that we do. What this does is it minimizes the cost of tank maintenance while also lowering the risk of downtime due to disruptions, leaks, things of that nature, major renovations, replacement potentially. From another avenue, we like to balance the allocation of those funds into one annual fee. That balanced allocation will assure that that'll assure that all ongoing maintenance and future renovations are taken care of under the asset management program. I know this slide has a lot of words on it. I'll give you a chance to read it if you want to ask any questions. Sorry, I made a pretty busy slide. All right, I'll take that as I can go ahead. All right, so let's talk about the agreement itself. Each particular asset is on its own agreement, so this is not all or none. So, for instance, we have the Avalon tank. The Avalon tank would be on its own specific agreement, just like every other singular asset. These assets are all based on particular scopes of work. Scopes of work are asset specific, and then they would fall under one master services agreement. The length of these agreements, as I said earlier, they're evergreen, so they're annual agreements. It's not a 10-year term or a 20-year term. It's a 1-year term. So at the end of every year, the way the contracts are written, it will renew automatically. But what that allows the utility is allows the utility control. So the way the contracts are written and the language that's contained, cancellation of the agreement is controlled solely by the owner. You can cancel at any time given a certain amount of notice, 30, 60, 90 days, whatever is decided. The only way that we can cancel the agreement is for non-payment. So if bills are not paid, invoices are not sent back in, obviously we would have the right to cancel the agreement at that point. We would no longer be able to provide service. Any questions on that? All right, so assessments and scopes. As Keith said, we came out and we assessed every one of the tanks for the city of Lompoc. It was me, Keith, Greg Smith. I'm not going to go into every single picture. I'm not going to go into any pictures. But what I will give you is an overview of the way the program that we put together based on responding to the RFP. We looked at completing project renovations over a series of years. If you look at Clearwell 1, that's at the water treatment plant. I believe it's the one closest to the entry gate. We still have some life in the exterior and interior coatings. We feel like we can wait till year 3, that would be, so it's 2024, that'd be 2027 to complete that renovation. Clearwell 2, the exterior is in a little bit worse shape as far as just age. It doesn't look bad, but the coating itself is what I would consider dead. So it'd flake off if you give it any kind of abrasive. So at that point, we want to complete that renovation in the first year. Avalon tank, very similar situation on the exterior. We have some major rust that has occurred on the exterior. I think a little bit of that is its location. It's a highly abrasive location being right next to the landfill, I believe. But the Avalon tank, also the interior is in immaculate condition. I will say immaculate, it's in very good condition for its size. And so we would forecast that renovation to occur in year 7, right? So 2031. The O Street tank, again, much like Clearwell 1 in year 3. Magalito tank would be year 5, and then the Beatty tank, the concrete tank, is a little bit of a different situation. It's concrete. We weren't able to look inside of it because the top's pretty thick. You can't get in there and look, all sorts of stuff. So we're actually looking to complete an inspection on that this year and then determine what the full scope of the renovation would be. Any questions on that? A lot of colors, a lot of words. That's what I have. Last I have is just room for questions. Any next steps? Anything like that? Thank you very much.
Councilmember Ball?
I just had a quick question just for our community to understand, it's a lot of technical terms and things, but
Understood.
why is it important to keep up on maintenance for these tanks and the water system?
So renovation cost versus maintenance cost are 2 totally different things. So We can talk about different maintenance types. So there's two defined types of exterior renovation for a water storage tank. You have what's called an overcoat, where you can, if you maintain the existing coating and keep a little bit of life in it, you can coat over it and extend that life. Or you have what's called an abrasive blast. An abrasive blast is removing it down to bare steel every time. An abrasive blast is typically 100 to 125% more expensive than an overcoat, right? You can do an overcoat once every 15 years or an abrasive blast once every 20 years. So if you start to extrapolate that out over time, there's a major cost savings there. Two, and this is something so I work from the Mississippi River to the West Coast. And so what I see in communities nationwide is if we run it to failure, someone will just replace it for us, and that is absolutely incorrect. You typically look at, in the Midwest, it's about $4 a gallon to replace a water storage tank, all right? The further you go west, when you start talking about seismic issues and things like that, it can go anywhere from $5 to $12 a gallon to replace that asset. So if I talk about, 100,000 gallon tank, a renovation on that tank will be anywhere between $100,000 to $200,000, or a 100,000 gallon tank to replace it will be $400,000 to $1.2 million. That's the major importance to maintain your assets.
That was great. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Yeah, I had a question. What's in the water in Arkansas that makes them want to shoot these tanks?
It has nothing to do with the water. It's the fact that they can't hit a deer.
All right, thank you very much for a very thorough presentation. Mr. Albro, time for the city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. During the State of the City, we did 5 videos, each one showing projects that we were doing in different divisions. If I could, I'd like to play one that we did for the landfill. And without further ado, I'll start it now. That's not the video, hang on. All right, so I'm here at the landfill with Keith Quinlan, our solid waste manager, and we've had to push out some pretty big increases, almost 15% per year for the next 4 years. So we thought we'd come out here and show you some of the projects that are going on and get an idea of why that's happening. One is we're doing recycling is becoming more and more expensive to process. We're also doing a gas collection system that was about a $2 million project, and we're also moving our organics into the green waste to help mitigate that methane gas as well. Keith, maybe you could tell them a little bit about the stormwater project that's going on?
We have a stormwater project currently under development here at the landfill. What we're doing is the hills above the landfill, we're diverting that water around the landfill, and the rain that lands on the landfill will go to an on-site basin where it's held so that the solids can fall out. And the project total on cost is $7 million. And that's one of the reasons for rate increase here at the landfill and solid waste rates. In addition to, as Dean mentioned, the landfill gas collection and control system.
And maybe we can go down and we can check it out and show it to you. So we're here at the settling basin. Keith, maybe you could tell us how this thing functions and works.
Yeah, so when a storm comes in and the rain that falls on the landfill has to be captured. It captures here, it falls into the, collected down the landfill, into these pipes and into our large basin where it's allowed to settle. And then the clean water from adjacent to the landfill comes down the pipe in front of you and just adjacent to the left here and is diverted around the landfill.
So this is all the clean water making its way out to the creeks and stuff. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the regulations and why we're doing this again?
Yeah, the clean water has been allowed to settle. It's actually stormwater that's landed on the landfill. We've allowed the solids to settle out and the clean water is being discharged. This is a requirement of Regional Water Quality Control Board. We have to be able to handle a 100-year, 24-hour storm event. And we also have to improve the water quality as it's discharged. And this is one of the methods of doing that.
Well, thank you, Keith, for coming out here and showing us this. it was educational. It's good to know why we're getting these increases, and it's good to see that we're dumping clean water in our riverbed.
Thank you.
And I encourage everybody to check it out. We did 5 videos in total, and you can get that on YouTube. We were lucky enough to have visitors from Manzanita Charter School come and visit the landfill, speaking of, and I want to thank them for coming out and visit so they can see how our trash is processed. Also wanted to recognize our Lompoc Electric Division. They got 2 prestigious awards from the American Public Power Association, one for reliable power and provider, RP3 award. They also got the safety award for excellence in operations during the 2023. And it's nice to know that they are providing us reliable and being safe out there. It's also time if you want to nominate people for the yard beautification contest based on visual appeal, maintenance, imagination, water conservation, artistic impact, and other criteria. You can submit both residents and businesses, and they'll be judging them June 7th, and they should have the winners by June 19th. And like Kevin announced earlier, we have the food truck festival that'll be here, put on by the Lompoc Police Department in honor of our National Police Week. That'll be Wednesday, the 15th. And that's all I have. Sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, Dean. And Mayor and Council, I wanted to add on an item to the city manager's report. At the next council meeting on May 21st, there's going to be a public hearing that the council scheduled to decide whether to place an item on the ballot for the November 2024 election. This item for the November 2024 election would be to decide whether to discontinue the public park use at Ken Adam Park to allow it to be used for other uses. And that public hearing at the next council meeting on May 21st is a protest hearing. If any person in the community or from anywhere files a protest, then the council will vote whether to overrule that protest. And I wanted to make clear, which I didn't make clear at the last agenda item we had on this, that if any person wants to protest the discontinuance of the park use at Ken Adam Park, or protest putting that measure on the ballot, they need to submit their protests in writing to the city clerk before the public hearing on May 21st, not at the public hearing, but in writing to the city clerk before the public hearing at any time, any day before 6:30 on May 21st.
Any questions for the city manager? All right, seeing none, we'll go on to our consent calendar. If you would like to speak on the consent calendar, now is your chance. You have 3 minutes, or you may call in at 805-875-8201. Once again, this is public comment on consent calendar, and consent calendar is items 1 through 7. While we wait to see if anybody calls in, I will read consent calendar process. All items listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted after one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the council vote. Any items withdrawn from the consent calendar for separate discussion will be addressed immediately before the second oral communications near the end of the meeting. Seeing no one rise and no one call in, we will close public comment on consent calendar and bring it back to council. Is there an item anyone wants to ask questions on, pull, or entertain a motion? Councilmember Ball.
I don't necessarily need to pull it, I don't think, but I did have a couple questions on items 4 and 5.
Okay.
Good.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How about
Good.
you?
So this is a general question. This is having to do with some salary adjustments, updating our salaries and how we pay our city employees. Me personally, I think it's very valid. We should always try to do the best we can by every single city employee. But as council, we've made priorities, and I'm curious how we as a city staff look at, and how do we prioritize salary adjustments and COLA
Sure. So
with
this-
different departments?
Okay, so this was brought forward because we did the MOU extension agreement with the IBW, and part of that MOU extension was to look at some specific classifications under ad hoc and to consider making adjustments to those if there was some need for that. And I've also got our Public Works Department here to talk if we need to on that. But what we've done is, so part of that MOU extension agreement was to bring back the classifications that are, well, the majority of them on item number 4. There was one there in the landfill coordinator that was overlooked, or the lead landfill coordinator that was overlooked the last time we did equity adjustments, and so that one's had a compaction issue. However, so for urban forestry and for the streets division, we've had very, very difficult recruitment and retention. So for instance, in urban forestry right now, we have 1 tree trimmer, we have 1 maintenance worker trainee, and 1 supervisor. So we've been recruiting for that position for, well, since August of 2022, and we haven't been able to have qualified applicants for that position. So we have 5 tree trimmer classifications that are allocated, and we don't have anybody there. And so when we looked at that, we worked with the IBW and we looked at salaries. And one of the major issues that comes into play here is the line clearance, and there's prevailing wage. Now, we're not going to be able to keep up with prevailing wage, even with the increases that we're doing now. We're 30% below that. However, we're trying to attract individuals to come in because we do need the line clearance within our city. We have 12 kV power poles, and we have our own electric division there with nobody to clear those lines. So that's why we're looking at that, and hopefully we're able to attract individuals. It's still going to be difficult, I believe, but at least hopefully we'll be able to get qualified applicants. In the streets division, we have a really difficult time recruiting for that, retaining employees. When they leave, we don't get qualified applicants that come in for those positions. So part of that, when we're looking at that, is saying, okay, well, let's look at our recruitment, and it's difficult. So that's kind of how we got to where we're at now, is because it's part of the MOU. So we didn't just choose them out of the blue. They were part of the MOU agreement that the council did approve to extend the MOU with the IBW.
If we make a salary adjustment or a COLA adjustment one-on-one with the department to improve their outlook, to improve retention, some of those things, wouldn't it stand to reason that that should be applied to all departments?
It does, but we also have to look at funding and where those funding sources are. So all of that has to be taken into consideration. So, for instance, we do have some ad hocs that are on there that we're probably not going to be able to move forward because the funding source is not there for them. These particular positions, and I can let
Yeah,
Dean
if I
talk.
could, just for the edification of the council, when you make this action, there's a maintenance of effort that's required by the general fund. Once we have to make that no matter what. So any incremental increases, whether it's for capital or it's wages, there would be no impact to the general fund. I think that the physical impact on the staff report was a little misleading, but I just wanted to make sure that you realize that any increases, incremental increases, would be paid for by gas tax, like Measure A.
So none of this adjustment is coming out of general fund dollars?
There is a portion that comes out of the general fund, but it's a base amount, and no matter how much it goes up or down, we still have to pay that amount. So any incremental increases would not impact the general fund.
Fair enough. We're able to locate monies within the general fund to be a part of this.
It comes from gas tax.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or items to pull? Councilmember Vega.
I'll make a motion that we accept consent calendar.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's vote. And that passes 5-0. There are no staff presentations other than what we've already had. We will move on to general oral communications. This is your time to speak on an item that's not currently on the agenda. You have 3 minutes, or you may call in at 805-875-8201, and again, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Chuck Madsen here tonight as Executive Director for Future for Lompoc Youth. Timer started. I'd like to quickly update you on all we've been up to and end with a request. Future started providing our first support to Lompoc High School students in September of 2021, coming out of COVID with masks on outside of the classroom to meet social distancing requirements. We started the first Career Readiness Academy with 18 students. The Career Readiness Academy is a 12-week intensive hands-on training program focused on 21st century employability skills. The CRA is co-facilitated with help from Allen Hancock College and area business and industry leaders. We followed that academy with the CRA, or the Customer Service Academy, a 16-week program that provides techniques for creating positive customer and social relationships. The CSA includes topics such as listening, people skills, conflict resolution, ethics and integrity, service quality, and verbal communication. The CRA and CSA academies are supported by educational field trips that advance academy experiences. Trips include Allen Hancock College's UCLA, Museum of Tolerance, SBCC, UCSB, and Lompoc Career Tour. And last week we had our first Vandenberg Space Force Base Tour. These trips strengthen the awareness of our youth to the career opportunities available in Lompoc and the educational pathways to fill those careers. In the summer of 2022, we partnered with UCLA and Allen Hancock College to bring California Freedom Summer to Lompoc, an 8-week course aimed to inspire Lompoc Unified High School students to engage in civic leadership by promoting their strengths within their community. This 8-week course ended with a youth-led leadership conference. Each student received college credits and a $2,500 stipend for their participation. In 2023, we started providing the academies for students at Maple High School and started the Future Fly Mentoring Project and Fly Job Shadowing Program. Fly Mentoring matches Lompoc Unified juniors and seniors with caring local adult volunteers who encourage personal growth, self-esteem, academic performance, and healthy social connections. Mentors commit to a weekly connection for a year. Fly Job Shadowing matches an individual based on their interest to the positions available to experience a day in the life of, learn the skills they need, education, and training to obtain the positions for these careers. All of these services and projects started with us listening to our youth. Each year, Future holds youth focus groups with youth representing different high schools and different areas of our community right here in council chambers. They have felt for a very long time that they needed to leave the community of Lompoc if they wanted to succeed. We want to change that. This will be our 4th year providing the academies to Lompoc Unified School Districts. We have held 6 graduations and have supported around 250 students through our various programs. We have graduated students that are now attending local community colleges and universities throughout the state and even across the country. Now my request. I am requesting $50,000 of the city's unrestricted funds to support Future in purchasing a van from George Bedford at Sunset Auto. This van will allow us to connect and support our youth in all of these programs to even be more successful. Thank you.
Thank you. So, a lesson to learn. We don't clap because it can discourage those that oppose you. So, silently show your support by waving your hands quietly. Thank you, Chuck.
My name is Keith McClellan, and over the years I've had the privilege of providing invocations to this fine group. Rarely have I made any of my opinions public in this particular setting, but tonight is an exception. This past Friday, I had the privilege of attending the City of Lompoc Police Department's Personnel Recognition Dinner. The event held at the Lompoc Hilton Garden Inn was funded by the Lompoc Police Department's Foundation, a volunteer organization which over the years has provided significant supplemental support for our police department. On the evening of this event, Chief Martin and his command staff recognized 9 individuals for exemplary service to the department and the city, including Officer of the Year, Officer Gabrielle Molina. Rookie of the Year, Officer Heather Smith, whom you've heard her name before at this podium. Supervisor of the Year, Sergeant Vincent Magallon from our Investigations Unit. Jailer of the Year, Jail Supervisor Joey Bailey. Professional Staff of the Year, Police Records Technician Candace Justice. And Dispatcher of the Year, Acting Dispatch Supervisor Hasmeen Brown. This year's Life Saving Award went to Officer Scott Gaddis, and the Chief's Meritorious Service Award recognized IT Wizard Jim Brown and SWAT Shooting Range Volunteer Thomas Johnson. Most significantly, from my perspective, the narratives that were profiling each recipient highlighted a level of commitment that was and is far above the ordinary. The recognition of excellence highlighted contributions to the safety and well-being of our community that affirmed that we have a police department where personnel are willing to go beyond the call of duty. Having been affiliated with the Lompoc Police Department as a volunteer chaplain for the past 11 years, I could not have been prouder of and more confident in the quality and caliber of our police department than I was on Friday night. We have an amazing police department. Thank you, Mayor Osborne, members of this council, City Manager Dean Arborough, and City Personnel Director Gabe Garcia, and our tax-paying residents of Lompoc for your part in bringing our PD to the level of exemplary excellence that was highlighted through each award given this past Friday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, I want to bring a couple items to your attention. Recently, Councilmember Ball asked where can another $1 million a year come from. So if you go back and read Resolution 6587, parentheses 23, Section 6, the city manager or designee is authorized to approve appropriations, transfers between departments within a fund without city council approval. Transfer to departments that exceed their budget by $100,000 require city council approval. And when I was on the council back then, we put that on there as a reason, like some of the problems and complications you have, as with the fire department needing more money. You don't just let it happen. When it comes to be needing more money, the discussion comes up and you entertain what's going on. This last year, in this fine book here, your 2023 Annual Comprehensive Compliance Report, a few questions were asked, but it was kind of glossed over. If you look at page 85 in this report, you will see that against the resolution that you approved, there's $1.48 million were spent without council approval. One department went over $700,000 in its budget itself. That's money that's being spent, negotiated and stuff in the back rooms. I mean, this stuff has to stop. You're looking for an extra $1 million. As in this case here, fire departments want to know how they can straighten things out. There's obviously discussions going on somewhere, and you guys aren't privy to these discussions. There's another note in this book that of importance. By the way, I did bring this to city staff's attention. I've been minimal response as to what's been going on. Another item of importance that you need to follow up on, and that's on page 78, note 13, the interfund activities. You have $3.6 million that was borrowed from the water utility, payable to the airport fund. In this note, it's supposed to recognize where the money went and how it's to be paid back. Was this a short-term loan? Is it a long-term loan? Likewise, if you read on in there a little further, you will see that there's the internal service fund got $1.7 million from electric. In times of past, note 13, it was called different notes at certain times, was lengthily discussed about where this money was going and how it was going. But whatever is going on needs to be done publicly and transparently up here. Not sure if you guys are privy to this, but it shouldn't be glossed over. Most definitely shouldn't. Another interesting statistic in here, and wondering again, you wonder why there isn't money in the accounts. Well, in 2008, the per capita income in Lompoc was $20,873. That's $20,873. The most recent report of 2022, the per capita income is $24,834. That's 19% increase, approximately 1.3% a year. This is what the public's got going on out there. And this is why there is a shortfall, and it's tough to make these budgets. But you can't allow money to be spent behind closed doors.
Seeing no one else rise and no one call in, we will close oral communications and bring it back to the agenda. The next item on the agenda is appointments to the Airport Commission. We have 2 at-large terms ending January 2028, and we have a applicant, William Travis Kalin, who has applied to serve on the Airport Commission. It is an at-large position, so anyone can make the nomination. Is there anyone who would like to? Councilmember Ball.
Sure, I'll nominate William Travis Kalin for one of the at-large positions or terms ending in January of 2028.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
And there is our second. Any questions? Let's vote. And that passes 5-0. Welcome aboard, Travis. I know you retired from the city, but you jumped right back in. Thank you very much. Our new business, item number 9, Park Recreation Analysis, Ryan Park Performance Stage Repair or Replacement Feasibility, Selection of Options for Repair or Replacement of Stage, and Renovation of Existing Concrete Pad for Food Booths. And we have Mr. Guerrero to provide that presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, the Honorable Mayor and the City Council. I'm Mario Guerrero. I'm the Parks and Recreation Manager for the city, and I'm presenting options tonight for City Council for consideration to repair or replace the stage at Ryan Park, and I also included an estimate on the replacement of the concrete pads for the that they utilize for special events where the food booths are. A couple pictures, just wanted to show the existing the stage as it sits now at Ryan Park. You can see in the photos that it's in need of the repair for the sidewalls and all the cracks on the stage, so it needs some repair. Couple more photos. And then tonight we'll be discussing 4 options. And option 1 would be repair the concrete, the masonry unit wall, resurface the concrete stage, build a new stage backdrop, kind of the current backdrop that we use now for special events, add an ADA ramp, regrade the surrounding area, do some electrical upgrades for the panel for greater output, and the estimated cost on that is $122,500. Couple pictures to kind of depict what we want to do out there. An ADA ramp on the west side of the stage, and also just a kind of pictures so the public and council can see the current backdrop, and also some of the shade that they currently use for the events throughout the day. Option 2 and 3, in addition to option 1, would be to cover the stage. Again, to provide shade for the users throughout the day, and there are many different type of materials, but we're looking at wooden backdrops or shade covers or steel, and there's also fabric as well. Just kind of wanted to put a few pictures out here to kind of show the concept with the ramp and it covered on the stage. Some of the more elaborate ones are the wooden covers. There's potential steel covers. And again, getting more into the basics, we estimated then that it would start off about $275,000, but depending on how elaborate that price can rise pretty fast. Option 4 would be to remove the concrete stage and purchase a mobile stage unit. Estimated cost on that would be $300,000. With the mobile stage, here's an example of what it can look like. It does give us the flexibility that we would be able to use it at Ryan Park or any other events in town, the other parks, or it can be a rental asset for the city as well. So anybody putting on special events would be able to rent the unit. The concrete pads, wanted to put a couple pictures out there. They're in really bad shape. We do need to replace those and take those out and do a full renovation of concrete, the rebars, so they would be safe for the public to use during these special events. And in closing, just kind of wanted to leave this up here to kind of help you in your discussion, and I'm here for any questions and any of the direction that council wants to give staff on which course of action that we'd want to go for the future for further budget talks.
Thank you for that. All right, any questions? Starting with Councilmember Vega.
Mario, the stage needs some repair. We know that, okay? Maybe you can explain what happened the last time this was brought up and what the delay was. I think the council consensus back at the time was to repair the stage and put a cover on it, and then it never came back, okay? And so we already went through this once, but I don't know if there was any funding mechanism, or I think what happened, we were even given some sort of an estimate. So I think I'm not sure if these prices have been updated or not, or if these were old prices that were given to us back then as far as estimates, because it was always a little bit cheaper. Everybody kind of voted to, back in the day, I remember we went with keeping the permanent stage. I know the city's probably leaning toward a portable stage, but I think the consensus back then was to repair the current stage, and I'm not speaking for everybody right now, but I remember what happened, because I think it's really important because of all the traffic that goes through that park. I think that we should have something we should be proud of. So I'm not sure what happened back then. Maybe you can update us.
It was put in the CIP book that it just wasn't funds appropriated before that. So we just kind of wanted to bring it back and get council's the direction again.
It should have been dealt with back then, but it never came back. It kind of just disappeared, because I think we already gave direction, and I'm not sure why it didn't come back, because it was something that was pretty clear. People always thought the stage was our main focus, and that's what we showcase here, and we have all our events there. And so it's something I think we need to move forward with, but I don't know exactly what happened. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up, that we've gone through this once before, and what do we need to do to make sure that something happens? You're asking us for direction.
I guess it would be just funding appropriations if this is something that council would want to act on now, or to put it into the next, the 2-year budget. So it would just be a funding, but the funding numbers were updated.
We're what?
Were updated from the last
Okay, thanks.
presentation.
I appreciate that. I think that's something we need to invest in with Lompoc. We're investing in so many things that, since that's one of our main focuses, I think we should be proud of that stage, since we bring everybody there. And if it has cracks in there and everything, it's obviously a safety hazard, so we should upgrade that. I don't think going portable is probably the way, because there's maintenance, and there is a deferred maintenance component to portable. We know it doesn't last. So anyway, thank you for those answers, okay?
Councilmember Ball.
Yeah, so I kind of remember that conversation as well, and I know we definitely shied away from the portable stage, just for a myriad of reasons. But just so I can be clear here, if we were to go for everything, one of the options, option 2 or 3, it's $275,000 for the things above the stage, basically. It's $122,000 to fix up the stage, ADA compliant, electrical, some of those things. And it's $90,000 if we were to update the concrete pad where they serve food and during some events and things. that
Yes.
fair? So
Yes.
again, it's, just under $500,000 if we were to do everything.
Yes.
Something I'd like to put out there, and again, I'd like to hear from the rest of council, it's, obviously it is a cost. We don't have funds at the moment that are, that we can attribute to this, but I would just say, look, it'd be nice to have a shiny stage, but the way I'm looking at it is if we can enhance our quality of stage, we can enhance our areas where we have events. A musical group that plays on a bad stage usually doesn't ever want to come back. So having some sort of hospitable stage for entertainment and for our local groups, I don't know, I think that lends itself towards economic growth, people attending events, staying in hotels, spending the night, I think those are all positives. But again, this is a big price tag, so I'd love to hear from Dean if maybe you buried a bag of money somewhere that you might find for us. But I'd love to hear where we might creatively come up with some of these funds or put it into phases or work with entities within the community that can share on some of the costs. So that's my 5 cents worth.
If you want to sponsor me, yeah, I agree. Way I was hoping to get some direction at what the priority is of the council. Then we could do it in phases. We could do the ramps first maybe and bring that back. We could look at the concrete and bring that back, and then we could chip away at it. We don't have $500,000 or $500,000 that we can just plunk on our end at the time. We could look at, when we put the budget together, if there's funds come available at that point in time. We're just asking for direction for tonight to give us some priorities.
Mayor, I'm sorry. I don't think Dean's microphone is working.
So he's pressed it and it's turned green.
Dean, can you use,
I think staff is trying to quiet me, suppress me.
can you use Jeff's instead? I know Jeff's is working.
Like I was saying, oh, you can hear me. That's much better. We were just we did bring this back, and we were just kind of hoping for some direction on what your priorities would be. We might be able to chip away at, like I said, the concrete maybe first, or the ramping first, and then later on bring back some options and what it would look like to have the top over it. And instead of doing nothing, we would kind of like to get your input on what you see as a priority.
Are you okay if Councilmember Ball finishes his questions, Councilmember Vega?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I didn't know. I thought he was done.
So if money wasn't an issue,
Were you done?
should know by
Okay,
now, I'm
thank
never
you.
done. I always have another question. If I had it my way, obviously, we'd try to catch up. This park has needed a lot of help for a long time. But from my perspective, if it has to be done in phases, I'd be in favor of us, doing the bare minimum to start. And again, Flower Festival and other events benefit from that concrete pad. That's a no-brainer for me. And anything that can bring, ADA compliance and update the electrical, those are things that have to be done. So if we could check those first and then catch our breath maybe and see where we can go with a creative idea, that would be my approach.
Councilmember Vega.
Yeah, Dean, I think it definitely should be moved up on the priority list. It's something that the community wants to see and feel the improvements. The parks, you guys are doing a great job. Everyone's doing a wonderful job. We've heard rave reviews. Let's finish. This is a park. So along with the bathrooms, which, I think the bathrooms there, have they been upgraded there also, Mario, at Ryan Park?
Not at Ryan yet.
Yeah, that's another big deal there because that's the largest park and the largest one that brings in economics. So we need to bring all of that up to speed instead of saying we don't have money because we're finding money for other things. So I think it takes us to say it's a priority because, you don't want to be embarrassed. We're inviting people to go over there with a substandard stage. We don't even have a proper background for the music and the musicians. I think they deserve that kind of an atmosphere. So if there's anything you can do or some direction, I think that's basically what we need to do. It's been too many years. We're spending we're spending money on so many other things, and the visual and the aesthetics to Lompoc is something we want to be proud of instead of sending people up there on a cracked stage, and we know it's cracked.
Councilmember Cordova.
Mr. City Manager, is there anything on this list that we could afford right now?
I think we might be able to get close to doing the concrete pads, but we're having a few other financial issues that we need to address to close out the year, and we are pushing a little bit of a deficit budget this year, so It's a little tight this year.
Because I was thinking in my head, if we could, 90,000 or 122,000, it's very close in range to me, you know? If the council discussed and committed to one of those items and then placing the other into the discussions for the upcoming budget, then that could be something that could be done if we could squeeze something out. So that's just an idea for us to commit to at least one thing now, even if it, you know, meant that we have to kind of scrounge all of our.
Yeah, and not having Christie here, I mean, we can sit down and look at the budget, and I'm hoping that we could maybe get one of these knocked off. And I think you just gave me the direction we were looking for. You know, one of those two is what I was thinking. I don't know which one you'd want as a priority, the ADA ramping or the concrete pads.
Well, it's question and time, so I can wait until after public comment and based on what the public has to say, if any comments come through.
Yeah, we should avoid giving direction till we have public comment and feedback. That might help clarify giving direction. So if there are no further questions for staff, we'll go to public comment on this item. If you'd like to speak on this item, you're welcome to come to the podium, and you have 3 minutes, or you may call in at 805-875-8201, 805-875-8201. And I know I have to go for a pause, given the transmission remotely over the radio and the TV has a time delay, in case any of us start to say things on the microphone that need to be bleeped. And, all right, hearing no one call in and no one coming to the podium to provide input, we will go back and provide input. Councilmember Cordova, you have the floor.
If this council chooses to support, I would like to attempt at going for option 1 in the immediate. That would give us the opportunity to bring the actual upgrades necessary to the stage. And then we could put on our back, burner the cover for the stage and then work towards potentially the construction for the food booth area, the reconstruction for the food booth area that could be maybe fit into next budget cycle.
Councilmember Vega.
Yeah, I'd actually support that. I think we should probably specify what kind of cover we'd kind of like to go with, if we can make that decision now. That way they know what kind of budgetary budget they're looking for, It's, if that's something we can do, because I'm sure you guys kind of have an idea on how to make this happen. You guys are pretty professional at this. So is that something anybody wants to discuss? It's not my decision, but I think that whether it's wooden or the other overhang, there's a difference maybe in price. One of them's a wooden backdrop, a drop and cover over stage, and the other one's a steel one. God, it looks about the same price, doesn't it?
So I think because that's likely going to be in the next budget,
Right.
given what we're currently dealing with, I don't know that giving direction or feedback on that is as big a priority as within the 122.5 estimate that we give a hierarchy of what to tackle first, because I still heard from the city manager that they'd like to spend the 122. That may not be something they can do. So I would say, I would second Councilmember Cordova's motion with the hierarchy of ADA compliant ramp, concrete resurface, and electrical upgrade. Now, if I'm an artist who's performing, I want the electrical upgrade. But I don't know, I mean, it's hard to say number one for me is ADA compliant, because we have artists that perform that have trouble getting on that stage. Getting equipment on that stage can be difficult, so the ADA ramp helps with getting equipment up it. So I think ADA should stay at the highest. The regrading might be able to be done pretty cheaply without a resurfacing. I don't know. So I guess I would look for feedback from staff, but I think ADA should be the highest, followed by something that's easily done like the grading and resurfacing, and then upgrade typically of electrical takes a lot of money. So that's why I was putting it as third, even though it would be the preference by artists. But All right, who had their light on first?
Yeah, I was still on.
Okay.
Mine was
Alright.
still on, okay?
Okay.
So it never turned off.
All right.
So the idea was still with the budgetary issue, it says we have 275, no one wants to commit here. I don't think we should feel the pain, I think you guys should find the money, and we're giving you guys the direction. I think that's the way we need to go. Somehow we feel pain when we have to do something good for the aesthetics of the community, and I don't think we should feel the pain. I think we should find the money. So that's kind of my direction. So I do second it, but I think we should be a little bit more solid on the way we did the second motion for the 275, because we do have that as a solid number for both of them. Instead of saying, hey, well, we're not sure and it's going to be painful and we don't know if they can do it, we know they can do it. So I think that's the direction that I would give this, you already gave a second, and I support you, Mayor. I just would like to be a little more firm. I think it's really important that we get the bathrooms done and that stage finished at that park.
It's not that anybody is denying that it's important and should be part of the future plan. I'm happy to have a longer discussion about what the surround would potentially look like. I just was delaying it not because of the pain, but because of the lack of funds to do so and putting it into the next budget cycle. So that
Yeah,
was my-
if I could finish, if you don't mind. Ever since I've grown up as a little kid, that parks look the same. And, it's too long. We need to stand firm. You guys want other things? Let's stand firm on making sure the public, and we can be proud on that. That's one thing that I think that they're already moving forward with parks. Maybe there's grants, maybe there's something else they can get. They've done it for other parks. I'm not sure about the renovation, but anyway, I just feel strongly that we should make it look better instead of making excuses for it, because that thing's been there for I don't know how many years, and it's looked the same.
So I'm going to make a suggestion to solve this issue. I am going to ask that we break it into two parts. Make a motion, which has been made, about what to do immediately. Us finish that discussion and clarity on that, take a vote, and then come back to what would a cover look like as a separate discussion, since we don't have the money. And we'll have it as part two of a potential motion. Would that work for you?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be done tonight, but I mean, we did get kind of designs before. I mean, it can be done later. I'm just saying the money part of it, I think we should find it, and then they can come back to us, and then we can figure it out. That's kind of my deal, but that's up to you.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion on the floor by Councilmember Cordova. I proposed an amendment of just higher priorities within that if we were going to need to break down the funds. Kind of didn't make it real solid. And so, Councilmember Ball, I think you were going to have feedback, and then we'll go back to Councilmember Cordova.
So maybe I can just thread a needle here. So I support everything that everyone has said here. I think you're all saying the same thing, slightly different way. If I'm to pick one, I support Councilwoman Cordova's approach. And I do appreciate your hierarchy of things. The only thing I'll say is that we're only looking at $122,000. I don't want to split that into three things and prioritize, let's do a little bit of this, and 10 years later, all we got was a ramp. So from my perspective, let's commit to the 122. We've got to find the money. Every single thing up there is important. ADA, push the speakers up the stage, you got to plug them in. We need the electrical to be. So all of those things, I think, if we show our commitment with option one, equal weight on every single thing there, that's our first step to getting the stage started. I think past that, and if you'd be open to it, Councilmember Vega, I'd love for staff to come back. We have similar prices, wood or steel, $275,000. The things that we don't know right now, that we don't have the time to discuss and don't have the details, is what's the maintenance like on the steel versus the wood over 5 years or 10 years? All of those questions we have to kind of get into the weeds to talk about. So I'd love for us at least to, in theory, commit to this option one, find the money, and that gets us on the pathway to figuring out the next steps for covering the stage. So I don't know, I would support Councilwoman Cordova's original motion. If you want to go your way, I support that too.
I will pull back my priorities, given you've got a straight second for it, and wait for staff to come back and say it has to be broken down. Councilmember Cordova.
Well, one thing that is not on here is the bathrooms, and we just brought it up. So in my opinion, the bathrooms take priority over the cover. So if we were going to come back and have a discussion about spending $275,000, I'd rather get the bathrooms done. So in my opinion, I think the best thing we can do tonight is commit to something. I agree. We need to make an investment into that park. It is a potential revenue generator. It has been in the past and can be again. So I would like to see the commitment and the support for the commitment alone on the 122,500. Give Mr. Albro a little bit of heartburn, I know, have him figure it out. But before we go on to buying a cover, I would like any discussion that comes back to consider the bathrooms at that time. And before I let you go, I want to ask, tell me why we can't seem to get grants on this park.
For the stage?
We have gotten grants on this park, the playground,
Right.
the exercise equipment.
But not for like the upgrade on the bathrooms and stuff
So
like that.
this restroom at Ryan Park is going to require a substantial replacement. We're talking about, I mean, we get from CDBG like 300,000 a year. It probably would take 3 years of CDBG allocations to do the restrooms at Ryan Park. It's a massive project. And the other issue with Ryan Park is historically, when you look at our census tracts, it doesn't fall into our low mod census tract as a qualifying tract. I did find a workaround for that, but unfortunately, back in 2016, 17, Ryan Park wasn't really being considered for much of anything because there was this master plan they were thinking about for it. So it didn't even get pulled into our park assessment for CDBG for ADA compliance. I think there's still a way to make it work, but unfortunately, we just don't get enough to really address the restrooms, because believe me, it is one of my top priorities. And as far as the stage, since I think I've been working in CDBG, I've been looking for grants for stage replacement to purchase a stage. I'm always looking for grants. So if any of you guys come up with one, send it my way. I will look at it. But unfortunately, we just haven't been able to find one. As far as the coming back with the cover, I do want to add that all of this is in your CIP. So when you guys do the budget, all of these projects are in there, but you're making these decisions against a lot of other needs. So, and limited resources. So I just want to throw that out there. It's not like we don't want to do the stage. We have it in there. And every time we look at the CIP, we increase those dollar amounts. The prices just keep going up. So I think the idea of option one, and then when you do the budget, because that's about the time it would probably be ready to do it, you would be able to see in the CIP the needs for those projects and be able to rank them amongst all of the other needs that you'll be looking at that time.
And if I may, just on a couple things, the Ryan Park, the bathroom, we do have a cost estimate for an 8 restroom unit. It's about the $900,000 only for the unit. It'd probably be about another $300,000 or $400,000 to demolish, get it ready. So it's about 1.2. So it is a significant price. The other aspect for consideration as well, if we're thinking about the stage and about doing a cover, if the cover and the stage are done at the same time, we can do the cover on the footprint of the stage, versus if we do the stage and then we come back with the cover, we're probably going to have to do that cover on the outside, which is going to be a bigger cover, so it's going to cost more money on that way. So that's a other thing to kind of think about on that aspect.
All right, Councilmember Vega.
Are you first? There you go. You okay?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna turn it off.
Thanks. And thanks for the discussion on these two items. And I understand it's all dollar and cents, but I'll guarantee you none of you have used the restroom at Ryan Park, okay? I'll just guarantee you it's not something to be proud of. And we need to fix it, and you know that too. It's actually awful. So it's something we need to fix regardless of the money. It's embarrassing, okay? If you want to be proud of that park, fix the stage, fix the restrooms, find the money, because I can guarantee you won't use those bathrooms. Thank you.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Mr. Albro, what is our current budget deficit? 700 and some thousand, I think, the last we talked.
Yeah, it's hard to know right now. I know we just got a report on our sales tax, and it was about 700 below our budgeted amount, so that was concerning. We really haven't dug into the revenue side too much, but the property tax came in a little bit stronger.
It's a little early to find that out. I know that
We're in a deficit.
we're probably going to be a little bit of a deficit, and
So when we start our next budget, we're going to be in a makeup mode right away.
we do have a second year of this budget. I think there'll be a little bit of appropriations left over in this year that I could probably combine with some appropriations in the next year. That's why I wanted to get your priorities on which one of these things. I mean, you still should be really proud. We put $12.6 million into our project, our parks in the last 2 budget cycles. It's not that we don't have the money, it's just limited resources. And I'm hearing what you guys are saying, but you know, we're trying to do our best. There are more options for bathrooms, like she was saying, CDBG. There's also impact fees. There's more options we can do. A stage is tough because it's just straight out of the general fund.
No, I've been an advocate of doing this stage for many years, but I'm a realist also, and I don't think that we should go scrounging and, you know, turn in all of our plastic for playgrounds for this project here. This is something that the CIP, which during the budget, we all sat here and we did our prioritization. This didn't meet it, but it was close, and we obviously didn't want to forget it. I think if you can swing getting the handicap, an ADA ramp up there and an electrical upgrade, sure, great, this is even better. But this is a project of volume that needs to be in the CIP and a budget done on it, not just knee-jerked up here because it's in front of us and we want to feel good about it. So that's kind of where I would stand on it. I would put it in 23, 25, remember this, and make it our priority when we do the budget here in a few months.
And we really want your input, so, I mean, thank you guys for your input, but, you know, we want you to also tell us other projects you want. We may not have the funding right away, but we'll bring it back. We'll have another presentation. We can prioritize and pick what's most important to all of us.
So there is a motion on the floor to prioritize option 1, and that has been seconded with no changes to the motion. I would say let's go ahead and vote on it so you have an affirmative feedback of what to prioritize, and you've heard all of our other input and concerns that I think you've documented and plan to bring back as we discuss. So if there's no further discussion, let's go ahead and vote on the motion that's standing. And that passes 5-0. So we will look forward to when you can identify the funds and propose us moving forward on it, but at least we have provided the direction. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Here's your chance for your final oral comments for 2 minutes. If you'd like to call in, the number's 805-875-8201. I will make an announcement to fill the time. Over the weekend, we lost a community member and a former city council member who served 3 terms, Mr. Will Schuyler. He provided great leadership during his time, not only on the council, but for other things he did within the community, whether it was serving on the Lompoc Valley Parks and Pool Rec Foundation or with the Boy Scouts and other opportunities within the community. So our condolences to his family and thank him for his time and service to our community. All right, hearing no one rise for final oral communications, did we have any written communications this evening?
No, ma'am, nothing.
All right, Councilmember Ball, we'll start with you for comments and meeting reports.
Yeah, just one. I just wanted to say I had such a great time, and I was so honored to attend the Lompoc Police Department's annual awards. I know that hasn't been around, at least since I've been in office. It's been off for a few years, but to get everyone together and celebrate their accomplishments and all the hard work that they've put in, it just gave me an extra level of pride in the level of service that the police department's providing. We need a lot more, and I hope that we can keep the people that we have that are working so hard. So I just want to thank the police chief for making this a priority to celebrate their accomplishments. And they're doing a great job, and I hope that we have those award ceremonies on a regular basis. And I also just want to remind everyone, I look forward to seeing you. I hope you'll come and check out the police department's food truck fest that's happening next week. We had a blast last time, and it was packed, so hopefully we get good weather, and we can all have a good time then. So that's it.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Just going to report out, we did hold our contract compliancy meeting, and we will discuss that on, the 21st of May? Right? That's scheduled to be on that agenda? Prop 45, et cetera, so we'll report out on that, and I have no other reports.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Cordova.
Just a question. So if we have a direct ask for the funding, how does that work?
We had agreed that if someone came forward and asked for direct funding, that a council member would then move that request forward and seek the 3 supports for staff to come back and provide the opportunity for us to vote on that.
Okay. And City Attorney, if I sit as a board member to Future for Lompoc Youth, am I able to, or am I not able to discuss that at all?
Do you receive any compensation from your sitting on that board?
0.
Okay, then you are able to make that council request for the item to come back.
So I would like to request support from the council. We do have an ask before us. I think that Future for Lompoc Youth is a organization that has been put together by people in our community that believe in making an impact for our youth, and for them to be able to mobilize and be able to stretch out their program. They are asking for these funds, which we specifically set aside for any nonprofit to come forward and request, as long as it was something that the council saw some benefit to our community.
Councilmember Ball.
I'd like to wholeheartedly second that request.
I will give you the 3rd, and we'll follow up with staff on how to bring that back to council. Okay, since this is our first request. We hadn't figured out a process, so we'll check in with the city attorney and have that agendized at a future meeting for discussion and decision. Thank you for that. Councilmember Vega.
I'd like to thank staff. I was there like Dean now, no Mike. Thank Mario and Christy and Dean for those responses back, you know. As you know, it's up to us to give direction so you guys can know where to find the money. So thank you very much. It's important. And I have nothing else.
All right, I'm going to report out a few meetings. I know that I was not here much last month, and there were important reasons that I wasn't. I attended the American Defense Communities Conference on behalf of the city. We're working through the grant that we got along with the base, and attending the American Defense Communities Conference is part of connecting with those decision makers on proposed projects that will move forward, and that was a good and successful conference that you will begin to see the benefits for the city over the next few years. I then came home, did the State of the City. Thank you to all the staff and all of our partners from the federal prison complex, the school district, and the hospital for presenting and sharing with us what's going on, so we have a complete picture of the community and what's moving forward. And then I returned to DC the following week for the Northern California Power Agency and the Northwestern Public Power Agency's Federal Policy Conference. So as you know, we own our own utilities, we own power production, and help control those costs. And as a public power, we're a smaller voice than all the privately owned utilities out there, and they have their own lobbyists. So we go as your representatives to DC and lobby on the behalf of public power. It has huge impacts. There are lots of opportunities that have been taken up by our representatives. In fact, our current congressman has added language into the Farm Bill to assist us and all utilities with wood waste management around power lines. And so that started with us as NCPA members going and sitting with all of our representation across California, and in going with Northwestern Public Power, it extends it to 14 states. So it expands our voice and gives us a bigger presence and is successful. So that's where I was when I wasn't here at the council meetings. I also attended the monthly Youth Commission meeting because I'm currently on its rotation. They are now a full commission and are working through some of the requests they made to us at council, and will come back to us with their request to change their commission meetings and format. Vandenberg held its first mayor's forum of local communities that are directly connected or very close to the base. So we had a vital conversation there, and it will continue on a quarterly basis. Then I had the NCPA regular and executive meeting for their monthly meeting. The 25th anniversary for the Allen Hancock Lompoc Valley campus was held this past month, and it was really important and something that I learned because I thought there were only 4, but now I have learned there are 7 programs that you can get a degree on the Lompoc campus without ever leaving town. The information is on their website. It is hugely important that you know about this. Secondly, the Promise program that covers the tuition for your first 2 years of college exists. It used to be 1 year. They have expanded to 2 years. If you are a recent high school graduate in a local school or a local high school program, you qualify for this. Take advantage of it. Having student loan debt at 57 is not fun. So if you can reduce your costs and get college education locally, take advantage of it. And I thank the Hancock campus for expanding and being here. We had the Local Area Formation Committee meeting, or LAFCO, which I continue to serve on, and I attended the Lompoc Police Department's award banquet. Thank you very much for instituting that, and congratulations to all the awardees, as Pastor McClellan said. The Lompoc Senior Health Expo was last Friday. It was an amazing turnout between the hospital hosting it and all of the different nonprofits and the city departments being there. The parking lot was so packed I couldn't find parking. So when I got into the building, it was packed. It was so great to see everyone out and connecting with the services that are provided and really participating in the Ds. And so I just want to say thank you to all the organizers of that. So that is it. We have a special meeting on Thursday night. That is a special council meeting to discuss some general plan updates and how to proceed with them. So if you're available, come attend that. It's at 6:30. Otherwise, we will adjourn the Lompoc City Council to the next regular meeting at 6:30 p.m. on May 21st, 2024.